Isaiah is one of the greatest players of all time when it comes to competitive Smash. While I know many people know him for being a part of the Smash documentary and how great of a melee player he is, I don't think people understand how gifted of a Smash 64 player he is and continues to be. For those of you that don't know, Isaiah is one of, if not the greatest Smash 64 player of all time. He's been competing and winning Smash 64 tournaments since at least 2003, and at Super SmashCon 2023, one of the biggest Smash 64 tournaments ever, he won the event coming from losers with a dominant 6-0 in Grand Finals. Again, he has been competing in this game for about 2 decades now, and he is still able to win incredibly stacked events for it. This is a game that's been out since 1999, and is probably the most solved out of all the competitive Smash games as well. Despite being out for as long as it has, it's still as competitive as ever, especially considering this is the 5th largest Smash 64 tournament ever in terms of entrants. Even though I am one of the best and knowledgeable Smash players across all the Smash games, there is one game where my experience and knowledge is completely lacking, and unfortunately that is Smash 64. So I decided to talk to Wizzrobe since he's a top player in 64 and just very knowledgeable about Smash in general, to get more insight on Isaiah's incredible run and just exactly what it means for Isaiah's competitive Smash 64 career. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright guys, so I have with me Wizzrobe, who you guys might know as being one of the best Falcon players to ever do it in Melee, but he is also a top player in Smash 64, so I thought who better to get Smash 64 opinions from than him. So thank you, Wizzrobe, for doing this.
Yeah, no problem. I'm glad to be here.
For Super SmashCon 2023, how expected was it for Isaiah to win that tournament?
I mean, most people probably weren't expecting him, but I will say, like, last year he got, I'm trying to remember, I think he got 3rd or 4th last year at SmashCon, which was, like, pretty good. Like, the thing about Isaiah, he's always been like, he can randomly decide to not try that much or try like a secondary or something. But then I think everybody kind of realizes like he has this low-key like god level peak that he can kind of tap into. Like maybe not whenever, but that's the best way I describe him, is like he has a very high ceiling. It's just not always there being shown. While somebody like Super Boom Fan, his ceiling is like he has a very high floor, and his ceiling's also pretty high, but he's always kind of like, he's very consistent. Isaiah, he's probably a little bit less consistent, but it's hard to tell if it's with Isaiah, if it's like he's just playing a little bit off, or like he literally just doesn't feel like trying as much, or sometimes he'll play like a secondary. Like this tournament, I feel like part of the reason he did so good was because all his like big wins were like with Pikachu, basically. I mean, his other characters are really good, but like just a really strong Pikachu, and because he went Kirby in like a couple really high stakes matchups too, and he did kind of good, but as soon as he brought out the Pikachu, that's really like what did people in, I feel like.
Would you say that Pikachu is Isaiah's best character by like a considerable margin?
I always kind of thought of it as like they're all kind of close maybe, but Pikachu's probably the best just because Pikachu's the best character and he's just so good at all the characters so that he can kind of bring that out. But yeah, I mean, I kind of feel like this tournament definitely showed his Pikachu is his best character, because he beat all the best people in this tournament. He didn't like, oh, he beat these two really high seeds, but he avoided this like 3rd seed or 2nd seed. Like he fought everybody. He beat KYSK, who's the #1 seed with Pikachu, I believe, or at least if not all Pikachu, mostly Pikachu. He beat Kuraba 2 sets in Grand Finals, and he beat Boom in losers, which Boom was playing secondaries because I don't know if you know about that whole thing, but Boom retired 2 or 3 years ago or whatever it was, but he came back within the past year, but with the stipulation or whatever that he's not going to play his 2 mains, which are Pikachu and Falcon, and he's going to do a poll for each tournament saying, what character do you want me to play? So there was like a kind of like an American major a few months ago called Xanadu Origins, and they voted for Fox. So he played Fox the whole tournament. He got 2nd. And so for SmashCon, it was a tie between Kirby and Yoshi, which are basically the 2 best characters besides Pikachu and Falcon, which are his 2 best. So this is basically like the next best thing after Pikachu Falcon. And he ended up getting 3rd. Isaiah beat his Kirby and his Yoshi. So yeah, he beat the 3 best players there with Pikachu. So the main thing for me is I've been playing Isaiah on and off on net play before the tournament, and I noticed like once his Pikachu's warmed up, I feel like I was like, I feel like this is the best Pikachu versus Yoshi because I main Yoshi, and because I fought like almost pretty much every good Pikachu, and just seeing him 6-0 Kuraba in Grand Finals kind of solidified that for me, especially with how well Kuraba was playing throughout the tournament with his Yoshi. The fact that Isaiah just came and just like pretty much destroyed him was literally nobody was expecting that like at that point.
So you kind of brought up how Isaiah's results can be sporadic. To, I guess, just put another player in comparison, another Smash player in comparison, I immediately thought of Mango. Would you say that he has like that Mango-esque playstyle where if he's on, it feels like he's unbeatable?
Yeah, I would say that's pretty good description. When he plays off, like everyone, there's always kind of those reasons why they'll play off. Like maybe they're just like I don't really know Isaiah's like specific reasons why. Like I feel like some tournaments he's just not trying as much, or he'll try secondary. So yeah, they might not have the exact same reason all the time for why they play worse, but it is overall, just in terms of results, it is pretty similar. Like when they're on, they're freaking on, but then they'll have other tournaments where he'll just feel like having fun and he'll play like a low tier, but it usually still do amazing. But yeah, it's a good comparison. Because
I would assume Isaiah's not as active anymore, or he's not as active as he was previously in like Smash 64, right? Yeah,
kinda. It's like there was a period, I feel like a couple years ago, where he was coming less often. Like he was coming to events less often. Like I think there was a SmashCon he might have missed, and then like there's like different years. Like given year, he won't attend anything. Next year comes, he's going on multiple things. So it's kind of like on and off.
Okay.
But I feel like the thing with Smash 64 is like whoever's at the very top, they're just always like up there. It's just a matter of like where. Like they never really like fall or to the bottom or lower, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I was gonna ask, or I guess kind of try to get more details on that. So like let's say he just like stopped competing as much. Do you think it would be hard for him to be like overthrown in terms of skill? Like, do you don't think there would be like a huge like skill jump and like people would kind of like start surpassing him for lack of like practicing or competing?
Today, I mean, obviously it's better today, but it's kind of hard to gauge. Like I would say right now in every Smash game, like it's the most competitive it's been like every game. Like players are trying the hardest they've tried in like each given game. Like people are harder in Melee, the average player is better. People are getting better in 64, the average player is better. Seems like the same for Ultimate. I don't know, it is kind of like the Mango thing where like, let's say, you know, Mango's had like all kinds of slumps and stuff, and then like if he has like multiple slump tournaments in a row, people are like, okay, maybe people are starting to catch up or surpass him, but then the next tournament comes and he just wins the whole thing. It's kind of the same thing with Isaiah. I feel like just Isaiah was so ahead of so many players back in the early 2000s. I feel like that even with people catching up, he's just been so far ahead that even being out of it for a while, he was just so ahead of people to begin with that it's just he's still like up at the top.
That's crazy to think about, especially considering he's been competing since 2003, or at least the most notable tournament I saw that he attended was like in 2003.
Yeah, I think he's like 38 or something like that. I was talking to Jimmy Joe, who's like one of the commentators for Top 8. I think he's the same age, and he was happy to see Isaiah win. One, because Isaiah, but also because he likes seeing, like, you know, even into your late 30s, like you can still compete with the best. And like esports is so young that like we never really see that kind of like what would happen if somebody was like still competing like when they're getting older and stuff. We don't. Maybe we're starting to see it more now as like video games are getting older, but yeah, it's an interesting thing to see.
It's definitely crazy because a lot of people, when they think of Smash 64, they think of him. They probably would have expected him to like stop playing by now because again, he's been competing for 20 years now.
I feel like when you talk to him, it's just like the type of thing like he loves 64 forever and he's gonna play it forever pretty much. Like that's kind of his mindset. I feel like from what I've gathered, at least, like he goes hiking, he does his thing in his life, and he's gonna keep playing 64. Like it's just a game he loves. And for him, I don't think he probably thinks of it as like, oh, I'm gonna retire, I'm gonna not. Like, he's gonna be like, oh, I feel like playing 64 this year, I'll play it. I don't feel like playing, I'm not gonna play right now. That's the vibe I get, at least. He's just gonna keep playing. I don't think he's gonna have I can't really imagine him having a moment where he's like, I'm retiring. You know, it's just he feels like playing or not.
Yeah, that's cool. That's inspiring to hear, especially as someone who's older in the scene. Isaiah's been competing for so long. Do you think he is the greatest Smash 64 player of all time, or is there someone else that comes to mind?
It's for me, I would say it's probably him or Boom. There's like this Japanese player that's kind of like was considered like the GOAT of like 64, at least in Japan. There's like basically like an Isaiah of Japan. His name's Josuke. He's retired now though, and he mained Samus, which is a little bit better in the Japanese version, but still like a mid tier, and he was like insane. The problem with that though is this guy is comparable to Isaiah and Boom, but this guy basically, he never left Japan, and he doesn't want to come to America, and no one even knows what he looks like unless you go see him. Like, he doesn't show his face. Like, he has a kind of wild story, and he also lives in Hokkaido, which is like away from like all the other Smashers. So like, it's kind of like this like legendary sage up in the mountains that you have to go and train with, but if you don't go see him, you'll never know what he looks like. You'll never play him. Like, it's kind of crazy. But this guy is he has matches on YouTube and stuff, but he was the best player in Japan for many years, and this guy could also kind of be considered the GOAT. But the main problem with that is the Japanese version is like different enough where even if you're the best in the Japanese version, that doesn't automatically equate to the American version. It's like Melee with PAL and NTSC or whatever. It's kind of like that, but almost, I'm trying to think. Like, I feel like there's even more differences than that probably, because Smash DI is like significantly weakened in the Japanese version. It's like combos linked together easier. But yeah, in terms of the GOAT, I mean, Isaiah's been around for so long. Like, Isaiah was around before Boom. Boom has had some like crazy consistent performances. I don't want to say it because cringe, but like it is kind of like comparable to like Isaiah being Mango and Boom being Armada. That is like, I hate, it's so cringe to say, but like it kind of is, because Boom, like, he's had these really dominant years, but Isaiah's been there since the beginning, and he's had crazy dominant years, certain years, and so I feel like it's the type of thing where Isaiah's the GOAT in people's hearts for sure, and objectively he probably also has a good argument for it. So I would say it's between like Boom and Isaiah, but then for the Japanese version, Josuke's usually considered the GOAT. Yeah, it's hard to say, but yeah, I would say personally, if you're asking me, I would say it's between Isaiah and Boom, but Isaiah's been around longer, so he has that.
Okay, gotcha. I didn't realize the Japanese version of 64 was that different. That's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously it's like very similar, but it's like it's still different enough where if he came to America to play, like, he wouldn't just like automatically win or anything. Like, he'd have to get used to the version differences. He'd have to, the DI thing is like the biggest thing, because there's just crazy Smash DIs that help you get out of combos in the American version that you could never get out of in the Japanese version. So Japanese players, they kind of train like on a version where all their combos work really easily, but then you fight someone with insane DI in the American version like Boom, and all of a sudden he's making it super hard to get these combos that just always work bread and butter.
Yeah, that's crazy. We kind of talked about it before before we actually started the interview, but you said that Super SmashCon is like the Evo of Smash 64.
Yeah, it is.
Do you think that this is like the most stacked tournament that anyone's won currently?
I don't know enough about like bracket histories to like definitively answer that, but I'll say, like, I would say if you're asking me like who are the hardest players in the world right now to beat, it's like KYSK from Japan, Kuraba from Japan, and Boom. I would say those are like the three best players, although Boom's not playing his complete main. But I would say maybe, because like KYSK and Kuraba are like really good right now. Like they were the top 2 seeds for the tournament, and Boom's secondary characters are still like among the best in the world. So it's the hardest in terms of like the modern meta, if that makes sense. Like, yeah, people are better now than they were 4 years ago. So you could argue it's like it's better in terms of that perspective because the meta's been evolving, and yeah, so I think maybe, but like I said, he beat the 3 hardest people in the bracket, like besides himself, like besides him being one of the hardest, like Boom, KYSK, and Karaba were easily like the 3 best players in the bracket besides Isaiah, and he had to beat all of them to make it. And on top of that, he had to beat Karaba twice in grand finals. And I think even he beat Boom's Yoshi in losers finals, and I think it might have been a 3-0. So he like won 9 matches straight.
Yeah, so he basically just took the 3 like best players and just beat them in a dominant fashion.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it does feel like Isaiah tried pretty like maybe harder than usual this tournament, because not only was he playing Pikachu, but like after he beat KYSK, who's the #1 seed, he had like a pop off, which is like really rare. Like Isaiah's not like a pop off kind of player like ever. So like it was like he kind of like pumped his fist and got up, and I was like, okay, he's serious right now. So it was cool to see.
Yeah, that's amazing. So yeah, this win meant a lot to him. Here's hoping to see more of Isaiah, you know, winning 64 tournaments in the future, because again, that was just hearing about it was really inspiring.
Yeah, I think I was there and the whole crowd was cheering for him like when he won. And like I don't think he's ever won a SmashCon, which is like the biggest one. He's won like other tournaments and obviously always done really well, but like he won like the biggest tournament of the year. And I mean, Isaiah's like the biggest fan base for a 64 player, like probably besides me, and so I know he gave everybody what they wanted, so it was like beautiful to see.
Well, Wizzy, thank you for you know, taking this call with me. Appreciate it. And
yeah, no problem.
Yeah, I look forward to seeing you in both Melee and 64 tournaments.
Thank you, I appreciate it. It was a fun interview.
Well, that is it for the video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, make sure to drop a like, sub, and ring the bell for more Smash content. It's a few simple clicks, and it helps me out a lot. Also, make sure to follow Wizzrobe. I'll have his social media links in the description. Thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.